Now this is how we peel the apples. We have an automatic apple peeler. We just push this onto there and then turn it, and it will peel and core the apples. Then the apples that are now being peeled and cored, I place them in the vitamin C solution, and I just open it up a little bit so the vitamin C can get in to stop them browning. Then I hang them on the line to dry. Now the cores and peels go into making jam, so I'm going to freeze those. I'm hanging the peeled and cored apples under this piece of gauze. So after 2 hours, I've put pegs between them. It's like a spring, so I've expanded the spring so air can circulate between them. And now I'm going to cover it again with the gauze. So it's still got more water to go. No, it's going to cost even more to make it, dried apples. So here is our food scale. We're going to put 1 apple on. Okay, 125 grams for 1 apple. Now let's peel and core the apple. So your fresh peeled apple now has a mass of 80 grams, is now the weight of our peeled and cored apple. So here are 3. There's one peeled apple and dried, 2 peeled apples, 3. I'm going to put them into a plastic bag and weigh them. Because they weigh so little, I'd rather weigh 3 and divide by 3 to find out what the weight of a dried apple is. So let's just put the 3 apples on a scale. So we'll put that on the scale, and let's have a look at the weight of 3 dried apples. My word, you could say 55 grams. So I made these lovely dried apples, a whole bag full of them. This is just some of it. You can see that it's dried in 2 days. I started on Friday noon, and by Sunday they had dried out to this stage. And if I was scared to leave them a bit longer, because they're going to now reach too dry a stage. So I guess now is the time to bag them into plastic bags. So they're pretty delicious. And with that lovely machine that I've got, it cuts it into nice long spring-shaped coils like this, which make it dead simple for hanging up. And I like it. I prefer it for eating too. So I had to bring the apples in on Friday because I remembered we got baboons in the area, and normally morning and evening they come through, which they did, and if they had found these apples they would have all been gone. So you can see it's a very easy process, literally, with that machine, that little corer and peeler. Wow. So if you know someone who's got an apple tree, or you've got access to cheap apples, when I think that these apples were fresh apples 2 days ago, I'm sure all the nutrients are still trapped deep inside them. I'm sure they haven't lost much. Great prepper food. I also weighed them. 1 apple weighs 125 grams when it's in its new state. Then when you core and peel it, you lose 36% of its mass in the core and the peel, but I don't lose that. I put it into jam. It's got lots of pectin. I've got grapes ripening, so grape jam, here we come. And then when it dries, it goes down to, one apple goes down to 18.3 grams. So it actually loses 3/4 of its mass in water. So whether it's economical to, well, if you've got access to apples, it's economical. You can turn them into dried apples. I prefer dried apples, the taste, to fresh apples. So, I mean, it's an absolutely great thing. And yet, as you can see, dead simple. And the only other ingredient added to it was some ascorbic acid or vitamin C. And you can see that it stayed fairly light colored. It hasn't gone brown, which I think it would do without the vitamin C. So that's on on making dried apples. Then just a thought on the baboons. You know, we had a troop of 50 here a few years ago. They now whittled down to 20. And many people, including my wife, used to advocate for them, my late wife. I might give her a webpage down below in the comments section. She loved them, and she was always fighting that they don't be culled. And they cost the authorities quite a lot in baboon monitors. You've got to, with paintball guns, guide the baboons around the neighborhood. And I'm very conservation minded. I mean, I hack once or twice a week the alien vegetation. But I'd like you to think about something. When Christ returns, there's going to be a mass extinction. Read the book of Revelation. There's going to be probably 9/10 of all humanity is going to die out. And you can imagine the plants and animals are going to take terrible strain. The seas are going to be turned to blood. There's going to be meteorites falling to earth. And as I say, read the book of Revelation. So it's a mass extinction. And when Christ returns, there's just going to be a small group of people left. And then we go through the millennium. And then at the end of the millennium, there's a 100-year period during which it says in Revelation that the rest of the dead live not till the 100 years were passed. So at the end of the millennium, the dead are resurrected. They're given a chance to live on earth. They're given a chance to accept Christ who rules from Jerusalem. And then at the end of that, the millennium and the 100-year period, there is a fire, the lake of fire, that consumes the whole earth. Everything, the elements fuse, as Peter talks about, and everything is burnt up. And everything mortal on earth is going to be burnt up. And it looks like God is finished with mortal, that means material, plants and animals. The Bible seriously seems to suggest that there's going to be no more plants and animals left on earth. Then New Jerusalem is going to come down after the fire cauterizes the earth. Revelation also says there's going to be no more sea. Imagine that. 70-something% of the earth is sea. That's all that ecosystem is going to be done away with. There's going to be no more sea. That's already most of the earth and most of the creatures living on earth. And everything that is not submissive to Christ, every human, is going to be burnt up in the lake of fire. So Christ said he comes to baptize the earth with water. Those are the people who will accept him, and with fire. Those are the people who won't accept him. They get burnt up at their very, very end in what is called the second death, or the resurrection that comes. So there's going to be a resurrection after the millennium in which people are going to be given a 100-year period. I think it doesn't say the exact length of time, called the Great White Throne Judgment, when they're going to be raised from the dead. Remember Ezekiel 37, how the bones come together. They're going to live on earth, and they're going to be given a chance to accept Christ. But though at the end of that period of time, let's say it's 100 years, there's coming a great fire. Satan's going to be released out of his prison, going to stir up the people who are rebellious to come against the unwalled cities like Jerusalem, and then that they get destroyed, and then the earth gets cauterized by fire, and then everyone who's left on earth will be changed to immortal and will be submissive to God. So with that in mind, there's going to be two mass extinctions within a period of 1,100 years. So when Christ returns, there's a mass extinction. At the end of the millennium and 100 years, there's another mass extinction. In fact, it looks like God just wraps up this whole project of Project Mortality. So there will be nothing mortal left living on earth, I don't think. And I don't believe there's life anywhere else in the universe. So that's the end of the whole mortal experiment. And all the animals that have ever lived in the 500 million years on Earth, that's the end of all life, physical life on Earth. And God moves on to something new, and to spirit life. And spirit, everyone has changed to spirit, and we don't know exactly what he's going to do, but it sounds like he's finished with mortal life. Just think about that, how important this era of mankind is, that God has spent 13.75 billion years leading up to this point, including 500 million years of life on Earth. And then it all just comes to an end when God has got his required number of saints, when as many people as will accept him, human beings who've ever lived and accept him, are now on Earth. They change to immortal, and then the earth is just cauterized with fire, burnt up, a lake of fire, and the sea is gone. New Jerusalem comes down from heaven, and God moves on to something else that doesn't require mortal life. It's mind-blowing. We're not told what God's going to do for all eternity thereafter, but it doesn't seem to involve plants and animals. So I think that's very interesting. So although I'm a conservation-minded, I just think, well, God is going to destroy a lot of plants and animals whenever he returns, which could be soon, who knows. And then certainly at the end of the millennium, it's all going to be destroyed. So all physical life is going to only live for probably about 1,200 more years. And that's it. It all gets wrapped up, folks. And we come to a new heaven and a new earth in which dwells righteousness only. And we're back to almost, I guess you could say, the time before when remember, God originally created only angels that were spirit beings, and now he's back to just spirit beings, the angels and us. And nothing mortal is going to live. So I'll give a few scriptures below or here that shows the proof of all this. But very interesting. So as I say, although I'm conservation minded and we were told to dress and keep it, God himself is almost finished with mortal life. And every day about 150 species, if you check various sources, are wiped out off the face of the earth. 150 are species, many of whom we don't know, never even been discovered, but many of them we do know, not the big ones, the mammals, the rhinos and things like that. Smaller species get wiped out every day. And it's amazing how many species there are that we just don't even notice this, that 150 different kinds of plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, etc. are destroyed every day. But as I say, compared to this mass extinctions that are coming, that's just going to totally finish it all off. That's the story that most churches don't tell. Well, it's not every day that one hears sermons about the new heaven and new earth, but let's have a look at 2 Peter 3:10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away, that hasn't happened yet, with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth and the works that are therein shall be burned up. So part of the day of the Lord comes right at the end of the millennium. It's all called the day of the Lord. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought we to be in all holiness and godliness, looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of the Lord, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and all the elements shall melt with fervent heat. And then, nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth wherein dwells righteousness. So this new heavens, new earth doesn't seem to include the physical life on earth, because it's all been, the elements are dissolved and melting. Take as an example Revelation 21 verse 1. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. So this is a completely different earth. Imagine the fire it will take to just boil off all the sea water. There's no more. Where does the water go? Or wherever it goes. Then if we have a look at Revelation 20:13, it talks about the sea gave the dead which were in it, and the death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. This occurs after the millennium for a 100-year period. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. So the lake of fire is like molten lava that's going to cover the earth. And whoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. And then Revelation 20, verse 5, which I cannot pull up, but it says the rest of the dead lived not again until 1,000 years were finished. So that's Revelation 20, verse 5. So at the end of the millennium, all the people who've ever died, never known Christ, will be given a chance to accept him, believe in him, and then after that period of time, the earth's just going to be cauterized with fire that Peter talks about. And there are other scriptures which talk about this. So that is why I'm not, as much as I'm into conservation and believe in conservation, even at its very best, mortal life seems to be only going to last on Earth, and this is the only place in the universe where it exists, and there's no other living mortal beings. And then everyone's going to be changed into a spirit being, and obviously there's no more fish left in the sea, and the lake of fire is going to burn up all the wicked, everything wicked and everything vile and evil and so on, and we're back to basically God is going to work with spirit beings from then on in New Jerusalem.